Cyberbullying. Let's answer the tough questions. Interestingly, 50% of kids think that cyberbullying is a normal part of the online world. The question though is that, should it be? Cyberbullying is anything that happens online. We know that 25% of Australian kids are exposed to cyberbullying. They're on the receiving end of that. We also know that in Australia, 83% of kids are exposed to cyberbullying. They see it happening. We also know that that can be very distressing for kids if they see other people being bullied but they don't know what to do. Cyberbullying is, yes, mean comments, but we see it's more than that now. We see profiles being set up about other people. We see people taking screenshots of private conversations and sending them around to the whole school. It's a lot more pervasive than just mean comments. We know that cyberbullying can have a very negative impact on young people's mental health. It's linked with depression, anxiety, increased exposure to self-harm, and even suicide. We know that cyberbullying can actually be more detrimental for a child's mental health than face-to-face bullying. Although face-to-face bullying can put kids at physical risk sometimes, which can be very awful, we know that cyberbullying is more pervasive because kids look at it, and then they look at it again, and they look at it again, and they know that that image, comment, whatever it is, has a broader exposure for them. Their peers and friends can see it, and so therefore we know that that has an even more detrimental effect. In order to prevent cyberbullying, we need to make sure that kids are upskilled with exactly what to do if they are on the receiving end of cyberbullying. Small strategies like blocking someone, having privacy settings on their profiles, it stops people from being able to get in with those comments and write nasty things. We then need to be talking to kids about what they're worth as a person, what they're good at, why are they a good person, so that they're not internalising some of those negative comments that people might be saying to them. Even putting some distance to cyberbully comments. So for example, when a person cyberbullies someone else, the cyberbully is usually doing it for their own benefit. It says more about them than it does about the person on the receiving end of it. And getting kids to understand that is really important. So why did the cyberbully do that? What were they trying to achieve? What do you think that their mindset is? And making kids realise that it's not actually about them, it's about somebody else. We know statistically that people who do cyberbully have a higher rate of actually being cyberbullied themselves. For those kids that are cyberbullying, it's likely that they have their own things going on. It's not an excuse for their behaviour, but it is important for parents to know that if your child is doing the cyberbullying, there might be something else going on. I think every parent needs to be open-minded that there is a chance that your child may be the cyberbully. It does not make your child the worst person in the world. It just means that your child may have other things going on. Social conflicts that they don't know how to resolve. Maybe their self-esteem is low. They have needs too. But if you're open-minded to the fact that they might be cyberbullying other people, it means that you can help your child and then stop other people from getting hurt too. Research tells us that most kids actually don't want to tell their parents if they're being cyberbullied, which is quite surprising. Now the reason being, it's not because they don't like you, and it's not because they don't trust you, and in fact it's not even because they don't want to tell you. Research tells us that most kids don't actually want to tell their parents if they're being cyberbullied because they fear that your response is going to be, all right, well don't use Snapchat anymore. Get off Instagram. So they won't tell you. And that's a barrier that we need to get rid of. It's actually quite simple to do that, fortunately. The way you do that is this. You go to your child and you say, hey, I know Snapchat, it links you with your friends. I know how much you like it. I don't get it, but you love it, and I know it means a lot to you. My number one job is to keep you safe. So if anyone is ever mean to you, if you ever see a post about you or a comment that you don't like that makes you really upset, it's really important you come and tell me, and I will not stop you from using Snapchat or Instagram. We'll work through it together. That opens the communication line for your child then to feel comfortable in telling you things, and then you can deal with it. One of the key indicators is if you ask your child to get off their device, okay, and their emotional response is a little bit higher than what it normally is. normally is. Most kids have a bit of an emotional response when you ask them to get off anyway. But if you find that they're more agitated, more frustrated, more emotional, that's usually a red flag that something is going on. One of the misconceptions that parents often have is they think that if a child is being cyberbullied, the child will just say, I'm not going to look at that anymore. And we know for kids it's the opposite. Teenagers become fixated on what's been said about them, if anyone else has said anything, if anyone stood up for them. So they don't want to stop looking at it. So when you ask them to get off, if they're more emotional and more reactive, that's a good indicator for you to say, hey, is something going on? Who's talking to you? What's happening? And inquire from there. It can be very tempting for parents to just take the phone away from a child if they are being cyberbullied, or perhaps even if they are being the cyberbully. But that's not advisable because we're not teaching kids the skills that they need to learn about conflict resolution. We need to be teaching kids about digital empathy. And the only way that we can do that is by allowing them to have access to that technology, but teaching them how to better improve their behaviours, or what are some strategies that they can do to protect themselves when they are being cyberbullied. If you threaten to take their device away, all that will do is stop kids from wanting to tell you if they are being cyberbullied. Parents need to be aware that as soon as kids go online, they can't minimise every single risk that that child will be exposed to, and that is okay. What we want to do is we want to help kids learn, if you are being cyberbullied, what can you do? You can block, you can report, you can ask someone for help. So teaching kids about how to be digitally resilient is really important. A couple of other things that parents can do is be aware of what your rights are as a parent to report cyberbullying. All social media platforms, for example, have what we call family help centres. And these are centres for families that they can use, and they're laid out like an FAQ about what you can do if your child's being cyberbullied. So for example, on the Instagram Family Help Centre, one of the questions that parents can access says, my child is being cyberbullied, what do I do? And it'll say step 1, click here, step 2, and then Instagram will take down that post. But it's important that you know what you can do as a parent on that particular platform. Lastly, we do know that a lot of these precarious behaviours start to happen in the later hours of the evening. So setting up a time frame for when your child no longer has access to that device is really important. Say it's 10 o'clock and you say, okay, I'm going to remove your access, or I'm going to shut down, using parental control tools, access to Instagram and Messenger. What that means then is that kids don't become exposed at night time. It means that they can go into a safe space in their own bedroom, in their own house, where they know that they're not going to be able to read anything negative about themselves. And that's good for them. It gives them a bit of reprieve, and that's exactly what we need.